maybe mentally I already felt that burnout and that stress, but because of the hustle, I didn't know when to pause. What I thought was I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I'm doing this right. Let's say in this meeting, when we were having, talk discussions, so and so mentioned this thing, but why didn't I think about it? Why wasn't I able to capture that insight or that thing that they were mentioning? And he said, "Hey Cherry, how long have you been in this industry? How long have you been working?" Like 3 months. And then he said, "Yeah, you've been here 3 months. How long has the other person been working?" 10 years. And that was when I see, I'm comparing myself to someone who has been in the industry for 10 years, but I'm just here in 3 months in. And all these skills and data to download, right, it really takes time. But I didn't know because back in uni days, right, in high school, you were just comparing against peers and you all started the same time and you're all going in the same progress as well. So I think that was when it really hit me about this crash cycle and, thinking about, is this something I really need to overcome?
Welcome. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the NexGen show. In this particular episode, we talk to Cherry Fu. She works for a leading FMCG company, and please welcome her to the show. Welcome, Cherry.
Thank you, Ham. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure is all ours. Please tell us about your experience, because you've been in FMCG for quite a while. From one big FMCG to another big FMCG. Tell us the FMCG tale.
I think just going a little bit back in terms of my background, right? I actually studied marketing degree.
Right.
So I think having an internship as well, opportunities, I managed to find my passion in brand marketing itself. And as well as, being in FMCG, because I really enjoyed the hustle. I like, doing things, the fast-paced industry as well. And I think that's how it led me into landing my first job in, brand marketing for an FMCG company. And overall, it did go as I expected to a certain extent, because I, was going on campaigns and campaigns. I was able to take on, I guess, major opportunities where I get to be seen, get to be able to see my own ideas come to life. And I think that was what really captivated me from the very beginning. And I think that was how I started and how my passion actually started to build on and on in the FMCG world for marketing.
Fantastic. Actually, now I remember very clearly, you were a presenter at our Epi's Marketing Campaign Awards.
Yes, I was.
And you won, yeah?
Yeah, we won a couple.
Fantastic. Yes. Epi's now has been 10 years we've been running the show. It's an annual show where participants go on stage and present their campaigns live. Yeah. So that's not easy to do that.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of like a really good opportunity, especially for fresh graduates, right? Like, when I just started my career, there was not really a platform where we could really, bring out the case of how did we come about on this campaign, what was the story behind it, how much we worked towards it, and then the outcome that we achieved. And I think Epis was really the platform that allowed us to do so and allowed us to really showcase what we had and what, as, fresh grads, that our ideas and how we were able to get these industry experts to ask us questions, and really question us and let us deep dive into some of the things that maybe I didn't even think about when I was doing the campaign. And I realized that I think that kind of also builds you up to, maybe the next campaign I should think about this, because when I go and present at Epis, someone will ask me that question. I think that's how it's really an interaction with these industry experts for us.
I love the questions bit.
Yeah, I mean, I was really nervous as well. It was something
the question bit questions the questioner and the person who answers also. Because the audience, the listeners, what kind of stupid question was that? No, for example, or what kind of stupid answer was that? But then in that environment, everybody learns something or the other.
Yeah, I mean, as a listener as well. I mean, I did go into different rooms to listen about different campaigns, right? And it's just really, really insightful and interesting to see how different, the marketing world and different industries as well can come to place and bring things to life.
True. quite a few people talk about this 90-day crash cycle. I mean, it's become like a talking point for people who just join or are fresh. Tell us your take about this.
Yeah, I think personally the 90-day crash cycle is something I did experience myself as well. So I think oftentimes as fresh grads, when you come into the industry, it's all about the excitement, right? It's like, oh, this is new, that is new. I want to do this, I want to do that. And as it goes on, you realize that you're doing everything. And as you're doing everything, you don't take a moment to pause. And, I always see it as like really like a sprint. It's all about speed. I want to do things the fastest I can. I want to be seen. I want to be in every meeting. I want to say yes to everything, because if I say no, will I miss that opportunity? Will I be, not seen or recognized by my superiors? I think that's always what, as a fresh grad, I was really afraid of when I just started my job. And slowly you realize that, maybe 3 months down the road, you find yourself just doing and doing and doing, and you realize that it hits you mentally and physically as well. So I think when I say mentally, it's that fatigue that comes when you realize even when you sleep on weekends, right, it doesn't like rejuvenate, or you don't recover from it. And you come into work on Monday as tired as you were the week before. And it's just a whole cycle that comes again because, for example, I recover from, let's say it takes me a week to recover. And, okay, actually, I'm still motivated. I'm still really passionate about this industry and the things I'm doing. So you go on again in that whole 90 days again, that 3 months start again. And then you find yourself crashing again, like, oh, is this a burnout? Am I doing enough? Am I really suited for this job? I think that comes, it hits you, and it's a cycle that goes on and on because you often try to bring yourself back up, right? And I think this 90-day crash cycle, in a sense, it really hits you when it comes physically as well and health-wise, because then your health doesn't come back as fast as it used to be in the first 90 days when the second cycle comes and the third cycle comes. And I think that was what was relevant to me, and I really experienced that as well. Yeah, so I think because of all these experiences, right, there was a turning point for me was because my manager actually back then, I think it was during a long day. It was a really long day. I had back-to-back meetings, and I think around 7 p.m., I was in the office meeting room. I was just typing the meeting minutes, right? Then it was just me and my manager. Then he stopped and he said, "Cherry, are you okay?" And of course, I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm doing perfectly fine. Then he took my laptop away, put it aside, and he looked at me in the eye and he said, "Cherry, are you really okay?" And then, given the really serious and tension moment, right, I paused and I thought about it and I said, yeah, I think so. I think I'm okay. But as I said that, right, like a tear was rolling down my face, which I didn't even realize. And he was shocked and I was as shocked as he was as well, because I didn't realize that, maybe mentally I already felt that burnout and that stress, but because of the hustle, on and on it was going, I didn't know when to pause. And of course, and he asked me, what's bothering you? He was guiding me through my emotions. And what I thought was, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I'm doing this right. And he was asking me, why do you think so? Did anyone reprimand you? Who are you comparing yourself against? And then it came to me and I said, oh, let's say in this meeting, when we were having, talk discussions, so-and-so mentioned this thing, but why didn't I think about it? Why wasn't I able to capture that insight or that thing that they were mentioning? And he said, "Hey, Cherry, how long have you been in this industry? How long have you been working?" And I said, like 3 months. And then he said, "Yeah, you've been here 3 months. How long has the other person been working?" 10 years. And that was when I see, I'm comparing myself to someone who has been in the industry for 10 years, but I'm just here in 3 months in. And all these skills and data to download, right, it really takes time. But I didn't know, because back in uni days, right, in high school, you were just comparing against peers and you all started the same time and you're all going in the same progress as well. So I think that was when it really hit me about this crash cycle and, thinking about, is this something I really need to overcome?
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, sometimes we don't know whether we're here or we are there or wherever we are.
Yeah.
And the point about rest is so important. And being grateful to the person who told you that, yeah.
Extremely. Yeah, I think they made me realize that, hey, maybe I need to slow down a little bit in terms of what I'm hustling towards, right?
when I was in advertising, once upon a time, um, I used to go for a lot of meetings, during office hours. So when we finish our meetings, we come back, say, late afternoon, about 4 o'clock and all that. And most of the people, okay, thank you, and they go home. Then I'm sitting there, hey, I have to create this thing. So I'm saying, so I stopped going for meetings. Because if I'm going to go for meetings, who's going to sit down and create the campaign? Who's going to write that, for example? So I only went for the meetings when I have to present, for example.
Yeah.
Otherwise, time...
I think what you said was really true as well, because I think in corporate generally, meetings are inevitable, right? We need to go for meetings and things like that. But how productive that meeting is, and I think I've heard, one of these people podcasts as well talking about how to manage efficiency, right? And I think what they mentioned was in a room, when you go for meetings, right? Do you really need 20 people in the room, or is it really just that 5 key people who can make the decision? And I think that's when it comes to really realizing, how to really fully utilize all your resources and make sure that everyone has the time to also generate and develop all this work behind the scenes, while someone else is also being able to be the forefront and to make the decision, to make the call for things.
And also, I believe I can talk about my instance because I've experienced it myself. Actually, I need to sleep also.
Yeah.
Because the generating part now, also it's subconscious. It's not like sit down there, oh, now I generate. No. Now I take a walk. Now I go see a movie. I will be generating. Oh, now I'm in the shower. Actually, I'm generating also. Mm-hmm. So it cannot be fixed into a time zone,
You need mental space. If every day you're just doing and doing and doing, when can you really put that thought to it, right? To really sit down and think, how can I do this better? How can I add value to this thing, and not just doing executional basis of what is needed, right? And I think also as a marketer myself, as a brand marketeer, right? If I'm always in office and I'm just in meetings and meetings and meetings, I am never in the market really seeing what consumers want. And these are the people I'm actually selling to. I need to know what do people want, and not just what's in the office, in my meeting rooms only, and within that space only.
I also realized later only in my advertising career that rhythm, the right rhythm, I also didn't realize in my new years, the first 1-2 years, no. It took me about, I think, many, many years before I realized. But once I realized it, I could actually predict the ideas. I could predict when the idea could come. Like, for example, now if I'm having a brief, somebody brief me on Monday, okay, I think about it, right? Okay, I think about it and do my research and all that. I know that on Friday morning, I will get it. It took me a long time to get that rhythm right. Unfortunately, it came later only in my career. If it had come earlier, like now what has happened to you, it would have been more productive for me.
But I mean, for myself, I'm still working towards it, because of course that realization is here. And I think it's because also for yourself, Ham, and all the industry experts, I'm able to see online all these advisors and their experiences, right? It's so much more accessible now that it allowed me to have this realization. So it was really all thanks to, I think, people in the industry for the years who had this realization, allowing me to really learn from them and realize that, putting myself as a brand marketer as well, I do think creativity, you need that time, that pause to really reset and think about it. And I'm also finding my rhythm. So it was amazing. And it's really amazing to see how, you can predict that, okay, by Friday, you kind of know the idea already. And I think that's where I'm now working towards, trying to find my own rhythm and pace of how can I
There is a word that I also began to appreciate recently in this context. The word cadence.
Cadence.
I didn't know the real, the deep meaning of that word, but it fits in this conversation that we're talking about, the rhythm part. So in that context, it's safe to say that the person who finds that rhythm or that cadence, would be a high achiever, a true high achiever, correct?
I hope that is the case, because definitely when you are able to, I guess, manage your own time and your ability, like you said, predictions, right? When you know what's coming ahead, you can plan for that. And I think to a certain extent, that's how it comes when it works into when you're making contributions towards your work or even your personal life, right? You know what's coming ahead. You can prepare for that. And in a sense, as a high achiever themselves, they would be able to, I guess, utilize the resources to the fullest potential to make sure that whatever that they're generating out is the best outcome that they can. So I think when you mentioned about that rhythm and you can find that pace and you're able to take control of that, that's when it comes hand in hand with being a high achiever in mindset, but also being able to execute it as well as you have planned.
This is very interesting. Because I read on LinkedIn profiles, high achiever, high achieving, high achiever. It's like, of course, after a while it becomes beige. Yeah? It becomes a wallpaper. It's like it goes over your head or your turban or whatever. But this rhythm thing actually is universal. It's not just the person, right? It's also, I mean, customers take time to appreciate your brand, to make a decision to buy or whatever, unless you're doing impulsive stuff, But in all, every way of looking at it, it is, if you don't generate it properly, it also does not flow properly.
Exactly.
It's been lovely talking to you. Thank you for your sharing, and it was very exciting to me to hear about the pause and the rhythm and the cadence. And I wish you well moving forward. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Prof.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of another interesting episode of the NexGen show. Take a pause until we meet again. Take care.